Hello and welcome to the 500 workshop. Today we're going to be replacing the clutch on our car. The engine is already out the car. If you need to know how to remove an engine, please look up my video on how to remove the engine from your car. Once you've done that, you're able to work on the clutch quite easily. It's on the back of the engine, which we're going to look at in a minute. So here we're at the back of the engine. This is our flywheel, this is our pressure plate, and behind here we have the clutch. Now the pressure plate is held on by 6 bolts, 10mm bolts. So the first thing we need to do is take those off, and you should be able to hold the flywheel while you do this. If not, then the pressure plate's been tightened up too tight. If you can't, you can get a screwdriver or something and place it between one of these bolts and the flywheel, but this one is coming off quite easily. I'm just breaking the seal on these. Just in case you are struggling to get them off, I'll just show you what I mean when I said hook something in. So this is a small little kind of bar, crowbar or breaker bar, whatever you want to call it. And if you put it in to one of the grooves on the flywheel, actually let's just do this up tight so we can make sure we got it the right way and make this one a little bit difficult to do. Okay, so now when we turn, oh no, that's still a bit loose. See if we can do it even tighter. Okay, so when we try and loosen this, now the flywheel wants to turn. So if we put something in here, and that just stops the flywheel from moving. Hopefully you can see that in one of the teeth. You don't want to do any damage, but you shouldn't do. And there we go, we just managed to loosen that off and the flywheel doesn't turn. So if you are having trouble with that, I mean, you shouldn't, because the actual torque settings on these bolts is very, very low. It's actually 16, which is quite a low Newton meter torque, and the key here is that you really want to make sure that you're doing it to the right torque, especially when you're doing things on the engine and stuff. The torque settings are there for a reason, to keep your components safe, make sure you don't do any damage, but also to operate in the right way. So I'm just going to take this off, and hopefully I can do these by hand. So they're not very big bolts. That's kind of the size we've got here. We're just going to lay them up in a nice row so we can get them back. And this shouldn't fall off when you take it off, because it has got some locating pins on there to hold it. Bit stiff. I'll ratchet it back on. Got some walkers going by at the moment, if you can hear them on the video, apologies. Oh. And we're down to the last one. Okay. Now we just take our pressure plate off. and our clutch comes off with it. So here's our clutch. This one is relatively new, so we're going to put this back on. And here's our flywheel. I'm going to check, just going to put my clutch somewhere safe for a second. I think it's damaged. On the flywheel itself, you just want to check this plate for any damage, rust, score marks or anything, but it all looks good. You also just want to check your teeth look all good, not too worn on the outside. There's a tiny bit of wear, but it's looking relatively new and in good condition. You also just want to check your flywheel, make sure there's no kind of particular scoring there. There's a tiny bit of wear, but not too bad. It's not going to affect the clutch operation. So put our pressure plate down for a second and we'll get our clutch back. So the clutch goes on this way, and what you want to do is have a tool that locates the clutch. You can do it by eye, but I wouldn't suggest you do that. Now, I'm actually lucky enough to have this, which is actually the final drive, the drive shaft from a Fiat 5, not drive shaft. The shaft, the gearbox shaft that goes into the engine. Let's go with that. With the right splines on it from a Fiat 500 gearbox, and so that allows me to put our clutch onto our splines and line it up exactly with where it needs to be. That gives me absolute confidence that when I come to mount the engine back on the gearbox, I can do that. So if you can find yourself either one of these or a similar tool, so you might want to ask some of the 500 garages or some of the parts suppliers in the UK or wherever you're based if they've got one spare, and that's what I did, and so that's what allows me to then just easily put our pressure plate back on with the locating pins. Okay, nice and solid. On this occasion, I haven't used any clutch plate cleaner because I literally just took it off and put it back on. But if there's any kind of view of grease or any problems at all, and I'm wearing gloves as well, but if there's any sign of that, then use some cleaner to clean up the clutch and the plate beforehand. And then all we're going to do is put our bolts back in, start them off by hand. Just taking my gloves off because I touched around the side of the engine after saying that I'm wearing gloves, so I shouldn't get any grease on there, and that was greasy, so I've taken the gloves off. I'm not touching the clutch plate at this point anyway, so there shouldn't be any concern around that. Now it's important you get the right torque here, as I mentioned before, so you don't over tighten it, but at the same time you don't want to under tighten it and have the clutch slip out of place. So there is a torque setting. It's 16 Newton meters, which I mentioned before on this particular engine. This is the 650cc engine. Haven't replaced one on a 499cc yet, so I don't exactly know if it's the same torque, but just struggling to get this one started, so I'll just bring my racket in and hopefully start that one off. Yeah, that's going now. Yeah, so it's worth just checking Haynes manual or a service manual if you've got one. If not, then post it on a forum or Facebook, or contact me and I'm sure I can help. Right, so we're not going to I'm not even going to do these finger tight because 16 is such a small torque setting. I just want to get it near done up, but I'm not even close to nipping it, basically. Okay, that's loosened up now. Obviously, bolts obviously not the got the nicest thread on it, or the flywheel hasn't got the nicest thread. One of the two. So I'm not even doing these hand tight, I'm just literally getting it close. Then we can bring in our torque wrench. I think that's the right way. We have got it set, let's see if we can see that, to 16 Newton meters, which is what it's meant to be. And we're just gonna, is this the right way? Don't think it is. Need to take it off, push it through, put it back on. There we go. So as you can see, I didn't do these up at all tight. Just get them a little bit tighter. There we go. So there we go, that was that one. I'm going to do just these up a little bit tighter. There we go. And last one down here. Now I just like to go round again, just make sure that they're all good. Last one again. There we go, and our clutch replacement is done. Remove your gearbox input shaft, and that's it.